Good morning, Rotary. My name is Chris Jones, and I've had the pleasure to meet most of you virtually, at the very least, as I'm serving as the registrar for this year's Zone Summit. How's Baltimore so far? And what about this event? Hasn't it been outstanding? Outstanding. Did you all know that this is my hometown? Yep, I was born here and lived here until I was 46 when we moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. District 7620 was where I was introduced to Rotary as a charter member of the Rotary Club of Catonsville Sunrise. Yes, Charlotte and District 7680 is a great place to live, but Maryland will always have that special place in my heart. Crab cakes, burger cookies, the O's, the Ravens, the Chesapeake, and so much more. Today is an excellent morning in Rotary, and it brings me great honor and pleasure to introduce you to the Governor of the State of Maryland, Larry Hogan. You will find Governor Hogan's bio on page 14 of your program in your booklet, and you can look through it at your convenience. But maybe you'd like to know a little bit more about Governor Hogan than what's in his bio in the book. He was born in Washington, D.C., and grew up in the Landover area. He moved to Florida in 1974 and attended high school in Florida State University, go Seminoles. So Governor Hogan has representation all throughout our 2 Rotary zones. His dad also served Maryland and the U.S. representative from Maryland's 5th Congressional District in 1969 to 1975, and as Prince George's County Executive from 1978 to 1982. In the 2018 gubernatorial election, Hogan won the most votes of any governor in Maryland's history. Hogan is the first governor to be elected from Anne Arundel County in over 100 years. Governor Hogan consistently maintains one of the highest job approval ratings in the country. And as mentioned in the program booklet, he's married to Yumi Kim, and he married Yumi Kim in 2004. They have 3 daughters and 4 grandchildren. What is not mentioned is that in May of 2018, the Hogans adopted 2 rescued Shih Tzu dogs. And did any of you have the chance to meet Biscuit on your way in through the registration today? So hopefully you did. And last, I should mention that Governor Hogan and I share the same actual birth date. We're Geminis, but although there's just a couple of years difference between us. Rotary members and guests, let's rise and greet Maryland's governor and give him a warm Rotary reception. Let's meet Larry Hogan.
Thank you very much, Chris. I think that might be the best introduction I've ever had. Nobody ever mentions the Shih Tzu rescue puppies. But thank you very much for the kind introduction, and thank you all very much for being here in our great state of Maryland. I want to thank your president, who I understand is coming in a little later today, Jennifer Jones, past President Barry Rassin. I'd like to congratulate President nominee Stephanie Urchik, along with Director Jeremy Hurst, Aziz Momin, and the entire team for all of your hard work and for your leadership. And I want to congratulate Jennifer on making history as the first woman to lead Rotary International in 115 years. That's incredible. I'm not sure why it took 115 years, but I'm glad she broke that barrier. I know a little something about waiting a long time. I am actually the first Republican governor to be reelected in Maryland in 242 years. But I want to welcome you all to Maryland and really thank you for choosing our state for your Impact Summit. Thank you all for being here. I'm grateful for the tax revenue and the opportunity to be here with you. I'm happy to be here because I truly believe that Rotary International represents exactly what we need more of in this country today. You repudiate the debilitating politics that's practiced elsewhere, including just down the road in Washington, where insults substitute for debate, recriminations for negotiation, and gridlock for compromise, and where politicians seem like they would rather win arguments on Twitter than actually work together on common sense bipartisan solutions. Rotary International is not focused. We're not going to clap for the toxic politics. But Rotary International is not focused on that kind of toxic politics, and they're not arguing about the differences between the right and the left. You're focused on the differences between right and wrong. And you don't come here wearing red jerseys or blue jerseys. You come together as leaders of goodwill and integrity to serve, to get things done, and to make things better for your communities. You can and you do make a real difference each and every day. And that's exactly why I ran for office here in Maryland. 8 years ago, I was just a lifetime small business owner, had never held elective office before. I was completely fed up with politics as usual, and I was sick and tired of the high taxes and the burdensome regulations in my state. Maryland had raised taxes 43 times in a row. It took $10 billion out of the pockets of struggling Maryland families and small business owners and retirees. And we'd lost more than 8,000 businesses, more than 100,000 jobs, and countless taxpayers were fleeing our state in all directions. And a Gallup poll came out that said nearly half, 48% of all the people in our state wanted to move to another state. And so as a lifelong Marylander that loves my state, that just broke my heart. It also made me angry enough or frustrated enough to try to step up and do something about it. Now, I got to tell you, not a soul believed that it was remotely possible for a Republican to win in the bluest state in America. Some of my friends even laughed about it. I said, you know, I'm thinking about running for governor. And they said, really? What state? I said, right here. But I ran an underfunded, underdog, grassroots campaign that just focused on the issues that most people cared about. And we were able to build a big tent coalition made up of not just Republicans, but independents and Democrats, all of whom desperately wanted to see a change in our politics. And I promised to get the government off our backs and out of our pockets so we could grow our small businesses and put more people back to work and turn our economy around. And in 2014, with that grassroots bipartisan effort, we pulled off the biggest surprise upset in America. And then we did something that rarely seems to ever happen in politics today. We actually did exactly what we said we were going to do. We changed the entire mission of state government to be unabashedly pro-jobs and pro-business. We eliminated or rewrote thousands of job-killing regulations. We cut taxes 8 years in a row by $4.7 billion. We inherited a $5.1 billion deficit, and we turned it into the largest surplus in state history, $5.5 billion, a $10 billion turnaround. And we took our state's overall economic performance. Sadly, we were 49th out of 50 states, and we took it to number 6, which is the biggest economic turnaround in America. And in my first inaugural address in 2015, I pledged that the politics that had divided our country need not divide our state. And so for 8 years, they haven't. We have focused, 70% of my legislature in both houses are progressive Democrats, and I'm a Republican. But we've worked together with them in good faith, and we've worked together and achieved bipartisan, common sense solutions. Right now, I think most Americans are thoroughly convinced that America is hopelessly divided, that our political system is fundamentally broken, and that Washington is completely dysfunctional. An overwhelming majority of the people in our state think we're heading in the right direction. More than 70% approve of the job that we're doing. Because Maryland, here I think we've already shown a better path forward. In these past few years, our nation has faced unprecedented challenges. Maryland has led. During COVID, Marylanders balanced saving lives and livelihoods with one of the strongest health and economic recoveries in America. Our healthcare heroes, the small business community, our teachers, everybody stepped up in their communities when they desperately needed their help. In 2015, I'd only been governor for 89 days when the worst violence in 47 years broke out right here in Baltimore City. The people of Maryland rallied behind our largest city. I immediately declared a state of emergency. I sent in an additional 1,000 police officers and 4,000 members of the National Guard into the city. We moved our entire operation here. I followed the Reagan doctrine of peace through strength, and we allowed for peaceful protest, but we immediately stopped all the violence. And then I walked the streets of Baltimore for a week, meeting with faith leaders and community leaders and the NAACP and trying to lower the temperature and address some of the concerns. And we made sure that the people of Baltimore knew that we had their backs and that we would never put politics before their public safety. In the summer of 2020, when cities all across America were facing unrest, Baltimore was peaceful, and city residents worked with us to keep Baltimore safe. Now, while most Americans think the nation is way off track, again, the overwhelming majority of Marylanders believe our state is headed in the right direction. And I believe very strongly that those of us blessed by your trust should give you a government that doesn't act as if it's something apart from you, but one that is of the people, by the people, and for the people. A government that appreciates that no one of us has all the answers or all the power. And a government that tolerates contrary views among a diverse citizenry without making them into enemies or doubting their patriotism. A government that can discuss and debate with as much passion, with as much civility as passion, and with a view to persuade, not to intimidate, and to encourage, not to demonize or defeat. A government that can take on the big problems and actually make things better for all of our citizens. A government that we can all be proud of. You know, despite our imperfections and the serious challenges that we face, I still believe that the best days of America are ahead of us. America remains the greatest nation on earth. People from all across the world still yearn to come here, to become Americans. And the rest of the world still looks to us for leadership and inspiration. And just ask yourself, even on our darkest days, where on earth would you rather live than the United States of America? Americans are not tired of freedom and democracy. They're tired of failed leadership. They haven't given up on the values that make our nation great. They're just fed up with politicians who put their self-interests before America. And they believe, most Americans believe, that pragmatism, straight talk, and civility are more valuable than empty rhetoric. They want good jobs, a strong economy, safe communities, and increased opportunity for their children and grandchildren. That is the America that you represent. You know not to sit back and wait for Washington to lead to secure that future. You know that it's up to all of us. While so many people in Washington simply practice what I would call performative politics, you actually put your communities and your country first. When you face difficult problems, you don't just argue about them. You innovate, you work together to solve them and to get things done. You dream bigger and aim higher. And that's why we need you now more than ever. Thank you so much for caring enough to be involved. Thank you for the incredible work that you do in your communities. And thank you for coming again here to Maryland. May God bless every one of you and the United States of America. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage District Governor Shelia Brennan from Rotary District 7610.
Wonderful to be here. Governor Hogan, on behalf of the leadership of Zones 33 and 34, we appreciate you making this time in your very busy schedule to come and welcome us to the great state of Maryland. We are very happy to be here and look forward to enjoying Baltimore and the surroundings during our time here. I hope everybody had a wonderful evening last night. And Chris Jones, I have to tell you, I did search for the 10 most popular foods in Baltimore before I planned our hospitality suite, and burger cookies came up #1. So if you have not tried one, please come upstairs tonight and have one. They are really amazing. So I hope you are ready to learn more about some key initiatives in our organization today. We have a packed morning with 2 very important sessions focusing on topics that are important to every single one of us. Our second general session focuses on empowering women and girls. It is said that if you educate a woman, you educate her family. And when the family is educated, countries become stronger and more prosperous. This was a central focus of immediate past President Shekhar Mehta, and is further supported by current President Jennifer Jones and all our best friend, Rotary International Director Jeremy Hurst. In this session, you will hear from 3 individuals who are leading the way in this initiative. All 3 will demonstrate the importance and impact of sustaining their efforts in to provide the foundation for women and girls to succeed and to lead. Listen to their stories, and then consider how you can take those stories and might support and encourage your clubs to empower women and girls in your districts. It is now my great privilege to introduce District Governor nominee Kevin Kendrick, who will share his Rotary moment with us. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I went with several other Rotarians from my district after hearing a presentation from Maria Pacheco. Maria is a recognized change maker in Guatemala and the founder of an organization called WAKAMI, as well as the nonprofit organization Communities of the Earth. She has been recognized internationally as a leader in creating economic opportunities for women and families living in poverty. She received an MS degree in agriculture from Cornell University, was a Fulbright scholar, and was named a fellow of the Aspen Institute Global Leadership Network.
Thank you.
Through her travels in the Guatemalan countryside, Maria was able to determine that families were still suffering long-term negative impacts from that country's civil war, which had gone on for more than 35 years, beginning in 1960. Families were reliant on low-paying agricultural jobs held by fathers, brothers, and sons, and several severe droughts in the 2010s only exacerbated the problem. Maria could see the impact on families and knew that economic development was key to survival. She began initially with an organic farming initiative, seeking to utilize natural resources to catalyze change in impoverished villages and those coping with inconsistent access to food. Subsequently, in collaboration with Guatemalan villagers, Ms. Pacheco shifted the emphasis of her work to focus on commerce. They determined that they had to target economic impact. The first major activity involved organizing artisans with skill in traditional basket weaving and connecting them with local markets, and over time, their larger distribution channels. The success of this early effort highlighted the importance of commerce in the marketplace, improving the influx of resources to these families and villages, and led to critical change. Based on these experiences, Maria founded WAKAMI with the aim of reducing poverty in rural communities in Guatemala by linking them with local and international markets, and ultimately establishing sustainable markets. Since that time, WAKAMI has developed and implemented a business incubation methodology to establish bracelet-making businesses. This has empowered women in more than 20 rural villages and brought sustainable changes to their families and their lives. So in my journey there, to Guatemala with some fellow Rotarians from District 7680, I shared this information later on with a friend. Here are the outputs from what WCAMI has done. 60% of WCAMI children have seen improved health outcomes over the past 5 years. 44% of the families of artisans have improved their physical homes, their structures. Only 4 in 10 children in Guatemala in the rural areas are able to attend school. WCAMI families see 9 of 10 children attending. 130 scholarships have been provided to WCAMI children, enabling girls to stay in school beyond the customary 5th grade. But here's what I shared with my friend. The outputs from this 12-year program are tangible. The extra income is helping kids to stay in school longer. The nutrition guidelines provided by WCAMI nutritionists is helping children to grow healthier and improve learning capabilities. Many of the husbands finally understand that what the wives want to do is not an effort to supplant their authority, but to complement their ability to live better lives. We heard wonderful stories of how women had been able to add a room or a floor to their homes, keeping in mind that a home is essentially cinder blocks and a metal roof. One woman who is a single mom shared with us that her dream was to get a motor scooter, and she was able to do that, and how she set a goal to learn how to drive it, and she did. One of the most important outcomes for me is how WCAMI is actually helping in a small way to keep families together. As we look at illegal immigration in America, we need to understand why people leave countries like Guatemala. And it's simply to provide an opportunity for people to live, for their families to live. Providing families with an opportunity to earn a little more money is actually helping to keep men home. During a group discussion, one woman at one of the villages tearfully shared with us that while she couldn't go into details, she did not think she was going to be able to continue in the program. It was clear to all of us that there was ongoing abuse from a spouse that just didn't understand. And this is a challenge we all have to help to overcome. But again, the strength and resilience of these women is remarkable, and I know this program will only grow. Our goal in going down was to understand where their markets currently are and to help them grow in other areas. I'm excited, my friends. It's through opportunities like this that I see the real value of Rotary as we seek to help other people experience sustainable lives through empowering women. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, past District Governor Tina Fischlin from Rotary District 6910.
Good morning, Rotary.
Good morning.
I can't hear you. Good morning. That's better. Are you ready to be empowered? Absolutely. Awesome. Empowered girls become empowered women.
That's right.
Born into the
really
ruling
feel?
family of SWAT in Pakistan, Zebu Jilani is continuing her family legacy. As founder and president of the SWAT Relief Initiative, she works tirelessly to improve the lives of women and children in Pakistan through healthcare, education, economic growth, and sustainable environment. This nonprofit organization also empowers societies through community outreach, social mobilization, and awareness programs to help them achieve a better quality of life. Zebu is the granddaughter of the last Wali ruler of SWAT. He was internationally renowned as a pioneer in rural development in the SWAT Valley. The Wali established hundreds of schools, hospitals, clinics, as well as modern roads and means of communications, unparalleled in rural areas of South Asia. While growing up, she would travel with her grandfather and visit these facilities. She told me, "These excursions taught me a very valuable lesson, that unless you are personally involved in your projects, you will never succeed." Zebu's educational background is in dietetics, preventive medicine, acupressure, and traditional Chinese medicine. She has created a comprehensive health and nutrition seminar to help women and children in rural SWAT take concrete steps to improve their health and prevent disease. In 2010, Zebu initiated the Rotary Club of Mangora, which was the first Rotary Club in the SWAT Valley of Pakistan. Being a woman, she broke all taboos by starting a club with 30 men. In July 2011, she started the Rotary Club of SWAT. Please help me welcome this amazing, dedicated, and passionate lady, and one who I'm proud to call my friend, Zebu Jilani.
Hello. And greetings to each and every one of you. This is the song that you just heard. It's in another language. It's in the language that I speak, my mother tongue, Pashto. And it's a mother praying, singing a lullaby to her daughter and praying that she will be successful, she will get an education and be successful in life. I'm truly honored to be amongst fellow Rotarians who are gathered here today. And I'm very grateful to Jeremy for inviting me to be part of this wonderful summit. I have always considered myself very fortunate to be a woman of privilege, but I feel that with privilege comes responsibility. I think this might be one of the reasons we're all here today. How do we use our privilege to help others? To work towards what is right in a world rife with inequality. In my case, I have chosen to devote my life to giving women and children opportunities that improve the quality of their lives. This choice was an easy one for me after the injustices I saw growing up in a place where women are second-class citizens, mere possessions of men, and where girls are forcibly married off as young as 11 years old. How could I ignore a phrase I heard constantly from poor people all my life? For the woman, there is either the home or the grave. I grew up in the beautiful SWAT Valley, a remote, rural part of northern Pakistan. Even though I belonged to the ruling family of SWAT, I did not escape gender discrimination. My own birth was received with tears and disappointment, while my brother's birth was celebrated with joy and dancing. Growing up, I would hear stories from women and children who came to seek justice. I think this will be all right. From my grandfather, Miagul Jahanse, the ruler of the SWAT Valley. That's probably not a bad idea. Memories of those injustices haunt me to this day.
You were at the table with Shelia, Brennan.
Yeah, Shelia on one side, John Hartman on the other.
It is these stories that started my personal inquiry into the responsibilities that come with privilege, and the reason why I started to fight for equality and justice for disadvantaged women and girls in my home country. My fight for justice began in 2009 when the Taliban had taken over the SWAT Valley and militants destroyed more than 400 girls' schools that had been painstakingly built by my grandfather. Arshad and I started an organization, my husband Arshad and I started an organization called SWAT Relief Initiative, or SRI.
No.
My grandfather always told me that the reason why he was so passionate about educating the poor was because education was the ultimate equalizer. So at an early age, I was aware of what education could do and how it could lift the poor out of poverty. This is why my organization, SRI, focuses on girls' education. Our educational programs have grown immensely over the past 13 years in collaboration with our Rotary partners. We now run 10 schools, and I'm proud to announce that with Rotary's help, we will be starting an 11th school in the village of Jura, located in an extremely remote area of SWAT for the children of enslaved farm workers. I'm proud to tell you that with your support, SRI has put a total of 7,200 children and adults on the path to a better life through education. In order to give you a better insight into just how important it is to invest in educating girls in this specific part of the world, I would like to read you a letter written by a 16-year-old Saima, a student in one of our schools. She writes, "I have 4 brothers and 7 sisters. I belong to Salampur, a village in the mountains of Swat. In 2014, I passed 5th grade from a free government primary school. I was very happy to get first position in my class, but I was more sad than happy because I was thinking, what will be my education future now? The nearest free government school was 15 kilometers from my village, and my father did not have the money to pay for transport charges. I was so sad that sometimes I wept. One day, we found out that the government had launched a program in which they would pay tuition for poor students in private schools. My joy knew no bounds. It felt really good going to school again. I started to dream about a bright and prosperous future. I worked so hard. But after a few months, the principal came to the class and told us that the government program had been canceled, and now we had to pay fees, which my family could not afford. I sadly left the school, my dreams shattered. I was so hurt that night I burned my books. I started to feel hate for myself and for my poverty. I believed that we poor people are born only for serving the rich, and we do not have the right to get an education. Then one day, I heard about a non-profit organization called SRI, which opened a free school near my home. I thought this would also be like the government program, and they would leave us behind after some months. So I did not want to take admission. But my father insisted, as he told me, that this organization was started by the granddaughter of the ruler of Swat, whose family had always served the people sincerely. and that they would not leave us behind. I agreed and took admission in the school. Now, my dull hopes became bright again. 5 years later, I'm now a science student in 10th grade. I'm 100% sure that if SRI had not started a free school for girls, I would have been married a long time ago. Perhaps I would be a mother of 1 or 2 kids, because here the poor girls have no future. The only future for them is early marriage. SRI saved me and the other girls studying in our school. Anyone can feel and see the changes in my village through their efforts. Saima's testimony is a reminder that education can change lives. Although SRI's main focus is on education, I believe that for children to be successful in school, they also need to be healthy. That is why SRI has invested in a community health program which serves almost 30,000 people. Our community health program is best exemplified through a working day in the life of Fatiha. One of our community starts with getting her children ready for school and taking care of her 13-year-old son, who became a paraplegic when her husband, a drug addict, shot him last year. Then Fatiha's career responsibilities begin. She goes door to door, 6 days a week, to make health visits to women and infants who are culturally restrained from leaving their homes. She examines pregnant and lactating mothers, as well as infants and children, in order to identify those who are at risk so she can refer them to doctors. Malnutrition is a big problem in this area, so Fatiha's health advice about good nutrition, disease prevention, and family planning is an essential lifeline that these poor people depend on to stay healthy. Fatiha also dispenses the recommended vaccinations, including polio. She provides free medicines and supplements to pregnant mothers and children. Her job entails walking 5 miles over hilly terrain every day. And on top of all this, she's vulnerable to attacks from religious extremists who accuse her of loose morals just because she works outside her home. All this does not deter Fatiha, as she is on a mission to improve the health of women and children in her village. Due to the diligence and hard work of our community health workers like Fatiha, we have reduced infant mortality by 50% and practically eliminated maternal mortality in our program area within a period of 14 years. Investing in a community's health and education is so important. But how does an organization ensure the sustainability of these programs? In our case, we organize the local communities through social mobilization in order to ensure that communities are invested in our programs. I believe this is the difference between simple charity and true development work. We start out at the grassroots level by helping villagers elect their own leaders so they can organize into what we call village development organizations, or VDOs. We then give these organizations trainings on how to become viable by working with government departments specific to their community needs. We are also involved in the village video monthly meetings to ascertain how best to support them. All SRI programs are run in partnership with village videos so we can ensure that the true needs of each community are met. For example, in 2013, many of our videos talked about the need for clean drinking water. Since then, we have provided clean water to 80 neighborhoods, with community members themselves building the wells and contributing 10% of the cost to ensure ownership of the projects. I strongly feel there's no sustainability without ownership, no ownership without community empowerment, and no empowerment without local participation. SRI has come a long way in solving societal problems, and you, dear friends, in Rotary have been with us on this difficult journey, continuously supporting our programs to reduce infant and maternal mortality. You have helped us save young girls from childhood marriages by giving them an education instead of a life filled with hopelessness. You have helped us start vocational training centers, which give poor widows a chance to provide for their families. And your support has helped us save lives by supplying clean drinking water to disadvantaged communities. I feel that when we do something to empower others, we also empower ourselves in the process. And that is when we know that we can have the power to change despair into hope and to make the world a better place. This is the story of my journey in discovering the responsibility that comes with privilege. The important question now is, what is our collective responsibility to those who are less fortunate than us? And what personal sacrifices are we willing to make to ensure a more equitable and just world? Thank you.
Wow, what a presentation. Zebu, thank you so much for sharing your story and helping us understand the challenges, the struggles, but the hope also that you bring to the women, the girls in the SWAT Valley. I was touched by your stories about these young women, these brave young women who've been empowered because of SRI. And what your grandfather said about education is the ultimate equalizer. That's something that I truly believe in as well. So thank you for bringing that up. My name is Renee Laws, and I'm the district governor-elect. I should know my title, right? What am I? I'm the DGE for District 7610. Sorry, Shelia. I have the distinct honor of making a very special announcement on behalf of Director Jeremy Hurst. I'd like to present you with a Paul Harris Fellow. As you know, one moment, that this is named after Paul Harris, our founder, and you are receiving this in recognition of your substantial contributions to humanitarian efforts and making the world a better place. Congratulations, Zebu. Please join me in congratulating her. Really honored. Let's step to the side so we can show everyone Paul Harris. Guys. It appears we have a surprise guest. Thank you from last year's summit. I'm not exactly sure how he knew we were meeting here, but why would I question that? He is the all-knowing, the all-seeing. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hold in my hands special envelopes. As a child of 4 can plainly see, these envelopes have been hermetically sealed. They've been kept in a mayonnaise jar on Funkin' Wagnall's porch since Naples of last year. No one knows the contents of these envelopes, but you in your mystical and borderline divine way will ascertain the answers, having never before heard the questions. The magnificent Carnac. For you, question number 1, Carnac. The archives.
The archives.
Yes, the archives.
Where did Noah keep his bees?
Oh, Carnac. It's only going to get better from here. The next question. Cosine.
Cosine.
That's what I said. Cosine.
What do you call a double-decker billboard?
Oh my goodness. Let's try this one. Maybe you can do a little better.
It's hard to improve.
You would know.
Yes.
A supervisor.
A supervisor. Ah, how does Superman keep the sun out of his eyes?
Oh, we need a visor now. Carnac, it's past your bedtime.
It's past your bedtime. Ah, yes. What do you say when the cows are asleep in the field?
Maybe we should name you Dad instead of Carnac.
Perhaps.
Perhaps. Carnac, curtains.
Curtains. Ah, when is it time to leave the stage?
Hey, good morning, everybody. One more time. Good morning. Yeah. So it is my honor to continue our morning with an introduction to someone that is going to light that spark to imagine Rotary even more. Tonya Hatosy-Stier joins us from the newly chartered, you hear that? Newly chartered Rotary Club of Key City right here in beautiful District 7620. Tonya's entrepreneurial mindset allows her to see potential and possibility in those that she meets. For the past 25 years, Tonya has been an executive leader, speaker, and influencer. She has a knack for making meaningful connections with clients and an insatiable appetite for helping others to maximize their potential. Tonya has an unrelenting passion for empowering women. She wants to help them to break down barriers and to simplify the complicated in their life through relationship and guidance. Professionally, she has interviewed and matched more than 400 mentoring pairs through woman-to-woman mentoring and Million Women Mentors. Simply put, Tonya helps people find their people. A Rotarian of only 3 years, the founding member of her current club, sees the membership growing from the current 31 to at least 100. That's music, right? That's music. That's music. By the end of 2022. That would be 6 months from charter. How? Well, she's found that applying her skills in business, her compassion as a wife and a mother of 2 amazing children, and her instincts to uncover authentic and true abilities, inviting others to Rotary is just simply irresistible and easy. So, have you had your second cup of coffee, Rotary? Maybe, okay. So, but do you have something to take notes with? All right, yes, yes. Are you ready to be more inspired to empower our girls of the world? Yes! Put your hands together and join me in a huge Rotary welcome this morning for Tonya Hatosy-Stier.
Thank you all so much for having me here today and for that beautiful welcome. I feel like a newbie standing in front of this magnificent group of experienced Rotarians, having only been in Rotary for 3 years. So I do, and one of the things that I love to do is get an idea of who is in the room. So I'm going to have you guys stand in a moment. So if you have been in Rotary for less than 1 year, will you please stand up? Where are you? Okay, if you've been in Rotary for over a year, please stand up. Okay, stretch. All right, if you've been in Rotary for more than 3 years, remain standing. 5 years, remain standing. 7 years, remain standing. 10 years, remain standing. 12 years, remain standing. 13, 14, 15, 20, 25, 30. I'm going to stop and give a round of applause right now. Hold on now. 30 years, 35 years, 40 years, 50 years. All right. That gives me goosebumps. But on the other end of the spectrum, what also gives me goosebumps is that we didn't have a lot of people that are 1 to 3 years in the room. And I understand that I'm speaking to governors and past governors and emerging leaders, but there's great opportunity for us to fill this room also with a population that will help to carry on this magnificent torch that's been burning for how many years? How many years? How many more years do we want this to go on? Forever, okay? Today I'm going to talk about community impact by unity. And I'm going to share a couple of stories through my experience with working with women and working with mentoring programs for the past 25 years, but most recently over the last 10 years. I believe that we all have a role to play at a very grassroots level. It's very grassroots in supporting girls and young women in our community. And today, I think that I really want to challenge you all to think a little bit differently. I want you to pay attention to maybe some of the personal bias that you hold inside. We all have that. I want you to think about things that you may have learned a long time ago, just like I've learned a long time ago and are part of the fabric of who I am. And I want you to challenge those perspectives a little bit, because we have a great and grand opportunity and responsibility to link arms together and support young women and girls in our community. So here we go. Let's see if this thing works. Okay. So in order to live in the kind of society you want, you have to build it. I heard Jennifer Jones state that, and that's her brother's quote. Like I said, I think it's our grand opportunity to build from the ground up. If we want Rotary to live on way beyond 117 years, we've got linking of arms to do in our community. There's a great gap, right? What is the gap? The gap is the space between where we are and where we want to be. I'm going to start off by sharing a story of a young woman that I met with 2 days ago. I live in Frederick, Maryland, but I decided to come to Baltimore and stay a couple days. One of the mentees that I met 5 years ago lives in Baltimore. She's a third generation street walker, dancer, not necessarily the kind that you would think about. And she was in a space in her life where 5 years ago, where she wanted to break free of some of the lifestyles that were set before her and the examples and role models in her life. So she came to woman mentoring, seeking support. A lot of times when we see single mothers, or we see people in career paths that we may not have chosen for ourselves, we don't think of them as necessarily healthy career paths. It's our instinct to want to go in and save people and help to bring them up to where we are in our life. And sometimes that gap is so far. Can you guys relate to that? Like, I'm here and I want to be a Rotary president. That is a huge gap, right? It's our job and our responsibility to help close the gap a little bit, to walk alongside of the people in our community who we want to help to make productive citizens, to make better citizens, to help them make choices that they're not even aware are in existence. So I met this young woman 5 years ago, and we sat down. I reached out to her and I said, hey, I'd love to have breakfast with you. And she said, I'd love to do that. And she sat down by saying, I have to tell you thank you for one thing that I remember specifically you saying to me when I was in the program. You told me to start saving. And I couldn't do that I couldn't do that 5 years ago. I was being evicted. I was on the streets. I had to find ways to make money. They weren't the ways that I would have chosen for myself, but I had to find ways to make money. And she said, and today I'm proud to tell you that I'm saving money to buy my own place. Little steps and giving space and grace for that time and that seed to grow. She attended financial literacy courses through our program, which have been funded by Rotary. Thank you very much for that. Before I was a Rotary member. And now she's teaching her 88-year-old grandmother how to save money. So that generation, it's supporting generational growth. She's going to be the first person that owns a home in her family. She's going to be the first person that does that. So there are a lot of issues, obviously, within our community in our community and around the world. And obviously, I'm not going to go into the depths of what those things are, but I believe that if we can work with teenagers and help them understand that education is important, introduce them to education. A lot of the women that we've worked with, their parents didn't even finish high school, so they don't even see that, they see that they need to get out and get a job. They don't necessarily understand the power of education, but sitting with somebody like you at McDonald's, having French fries together, and just talking about who they are and what their dreams and aspirations are, and listening to that dream that always gets buried it gets buried because of life. Being that ear, being that person that can help breathe life in them, breathe life into them and help connect them to people and experiences that will allow them to see the world in a different place because they've not seen it that way. If we do that at a grassroots level, each one of us link arms with one human, one young woman, one person, one young man in the community, and infusing them with just a little bit of information, just a little bit of empowerment and insight, it's going to change the world, one person at a time. Who in here is familiar with the butterfly effect? Raise it. Yeah, okay. Anybody want to yell out, like, what in essence is the butterfly effect? Anybody? What the heck is it? It's a ripple effect. Okay, so who is the one person who started this whole Rotary thing? Paul Harris. Okay, so Paul Harris, way back when, what, 1906? 05, 06, I was close. Okay, 1905. Flapping his little butterfly wings, right? Spreading love, wanting to bring community together, wanting to bring fellowship and opportunity and service. Okay, and look what one person has created. One person. How many members are we at? 1.4 million, right? Imagine if each one of us took that same I'm going to call it a little seed because that's what it was. I don't know that Paul Harris really understood the power he was going to have 117 years later, right? I don't know that he thought that this is what we were going to be, right? Imagine if you took that seed and in your community, in your neighborhood, you brought together a group of people who were mentors, and you linked up with homeless, you linked up with students that are with single parents, you linked up and you started your own program. Every single one of you has information, knowledge, and access that a younger person in your community doesn't have. Each and every one of you. And we hear all the time in our mentoring program, we hear all the time when we're seeking mentors to match with mentees, why aren't you signing up to be a mentor? Well, what do I have to offer? We hear that all the time. You have life experience. You're not perfect. In fact, being perfect is not something that's going to help a young person learn. Showing your imperfections, showing your authentic self, that's what's going to help young people grow and help people feel more empowered. I want you to take a look at this picture. What do you guys see? I heard a big rock. An alligator. All right, what else? You see a person. All right, what else? I see a damn rock. Okay, we will all see and be, our eyes will be brought to something on this screen, okay? Whether it's the water or the rocks, or if you change the perspective, you see a totally different thing, right? What do some of you see now? A lady, a child, maybe saying a prayer, okay? When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, okay? I think that that's an important message. As you've been looking at individuals that you interact with, I'm gonna ask you a question, and this isn't an internal question, this is not something that you have to answer out loud. When's the last time you sat down and had lunch with somebody that's in poverty? When's the last time you sat down and listened to a single mom talk about the challenges that she's up against? We hear reports all the time about how great we're doing, and we are an impactful community of people, and there are great things that we're doing. Get to the root, sit down and talk with these young people who are absolutely amazing, and I'm gonna introduce you to one because I only have 2 minutes left here. Okay, so I want you to take a minute and look at this picture and kind of internally think and create stories, because that's what we do. We see images and we see people, and we create stories. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about this young woman. She came to our office. There we go. And she was a hot mess. And but she was looking for something. And a lot of times in programming, we put a lot of systems in place to kind of help, you know, model who are the right people to serve, to give service to. And all too often we expect people to come in with a suit on, poised for interview, and that's not a lot of what we experience through woman-to-woman mentoring. We experience people that come in and they may cry telling their story. This young woman was a ball of energy, and we intently listened, and we validated her insecurities. She grew up in the projects in Brooklyn, single mom who had multiple children on welfare. And, but she had, one of the questions that we always ask is, if you had a crystal ball and you could do anything, what would it be? So she went from sharing her story of despair to eyes open in the most magnificent way, and her heart poured out. I want to help single moms own homes. That's what she said. And she said, and I have a vision of starting a nonprofit. And through the interaction and hearing all of her magnificent ideas, we decided that the best mentor for her would be somebody who had started nonprofits. This is Tiffany Green, who is a single mom, and her daughter Naya. And these are just some of the things that she's created as a result of having a mentor and having people that asked her the question of, what is your dream and how can I support you? She has a master's degree now. She won a pitch contest for $1 million to rebuild a house that was dilapidated in Baltimore. She started a nonprofit called Empowered to Live, where she provides pre-apprenticeship programming for people who are looking to be in some kind of construction job. And she started another nonprofit called Women with Fortitude, where she helps to breathe life into other women. And she works at HUD. I don't know how she does all that she does. But had we had some constraints on the front end of the process, and she had to be poised and perfect and interview well, we wouldn't have gotten to the root of who she is and what she wanted to achieve. And she would have been stuck. She would have stayed stuck. Okay? So I want to encourage you all, okay? I'll end with this one because I'm a little bit over. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Has anybody heard that before? Yeah. I want us to think differently about that. That's been a part of our society for a really, really long time. And I want to tell you, you do get a second chance to make a first impression. That's on us. We can't prejudge. We can't allow bias to hold us back. All right. I know, I'm a little bit over, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going to put another image up in front of you. Preconceived notions, but I have to share a little bit about this young man. He scared me the first time I met him. I kind of took a step back. But this young man, his name is Danny Farrar, and he was one of the first responders at 9/11 at the Pentagon. And I get teared up when I talk about him. And what does he have to do with empowering women? But I have to say that. So he was one of the first responders for 9/11 at the Pentagon. And he went in for recovery of things and bodies and to try and find people alive. And that shaped him in a pretty magnificent way. After that, he went on to war and did 800 convoy trips across the desert. He was the guy sitting on top of the machine with a machine gun. And then he came home and had a hard time assimilating with back in civilian life, and attempted suicide. And thank goodness for people in his life. They found him and they helped him to grow away from that. But at his lowest point, he was chastised a lot. And but today, I'm going to go right to that. Today, he's the CEO of Soldier Fit, which is one of the fastest growing health boot camp type places. And he's also the founder of Platoon 22, which is set up for veteran services and helps veterans assimilate. And there's a pretty staggering statistic about veterans committed suicide, 22 a day. And it's his goal with the rest of his tribe to help impact that. I think the thing that's most important and why this is an important story for women and empowering women, his membership is 80% women. His leadership team for both Platoon 22 and for Soldier Fit, 50% or more women. So he's providing opportunities for women, and that's just something else that we can do. If you're a business owner, if you're at a top level within your organization, are you looking to support and looking to bring in and looking to provide access for women? So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and stop because I'm a bit over, but I thank you all for your time today. I hope that some of these stories help you to see where you might be able to fall in, to link arms with people, young people, and women in your community to help rise them up, help them fulfill their dreams. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Good morning. So, who wasn't inspired by this young lady? Do you guys want to do a countdown, just like she did in the beginning? 50, 60, 40, 30. Let's give a huge round of applause for Tonya. Thank you. All right. My name is Cam Chandan, and I'm the district governor for District 7680. And most of us tell the last four of our social security number, which is the last four of and the numbers of our district. In our case, we say we are the birthplace of Rotaract. So just keep that in mind. All right. Thank you, Tonya, for the amazing presentation with the outstanding information to share. Your efforts to lift up women and girls are impressive. One of the things that the quote that she mentioned, and this is something that we are learning at this summit, was very inspiring to me. And that was, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. We are all here at this Zone Summit to look for new ways to change Rotary. And what an inspiration to start with this morning to learn about change and the change that we can bring in within ourselves, within our communities, and make an impact. Thank you, Tonya. So, as we get into the next segment, I wanted to share a quick story or a joke that we have at our home. As some of you know, I have two teenage girls, 16 and 14. One of them is a youth exchange student in Spain right now. So thank you, Rotary. Thank you to all the members. It's been approximately 17 days, and we are in a blackout period. We cannot communicate with her. So I keep recollecting some of the funny stuff that we do at home. And one day, we went to a pediatrician, and she tells me, Dad, do you look at their text messages? And my daughter stares at me, and she stares at the doctor. She stares at me, she stares at the doctor. And what did the doctor say? look at your text messages. And I was like, wow, that's the treasure right there, right? And it's amazing how teenagers communicate in this day and age to make sure that, number one, we as parents don't get the message, and we as parents get totally confused with acronyms that happen all over the world. And I'm in technology, and we are all in Rotary. We all know how many acronyms we deal with, okay? And I'm going to read out one text message that I saw, and I want you to figure out what it meant. CTN, PAW, Nisha, that was TMI, ICYMI, my MSG, STW for best places to hang out, JSKYK, I am sitting downstairs, LMK if you can't find it. Okay. Okay. So now I had to find how to decrypt this, right? And I was like, okay, what the hell should I do? Paw means, it means something about my dog. I don't know what. MSG was very clear, was message. You know, CTN, I have like, what the hell does this mean? Okay, so after doing the translation, this is what I found out. Can't talk now. Parents are watching. Nisha, that was too much information. In case you missed my message, I want you to search the web for best places to hang out. Just so you know, I am sitting downstairs. Let me know if you can't find it. Okay? That's the future of Rotary, and that's what we all need to adapt to. So wear your seatbelts and be prepared, because that's what is happening. Stephanie, that's a challenge for you. Wonderful, thank you. Okay. So you all know that we are all looking for young members to get involved in Rotary and lead the way. Bringing their enthusiasm, energy, and ideas make Rotary a better organization. But sometimes there's a communication disconnect with our veteran members, and something that we all need to figure out. You know, communication always isn't easy, and it's more difficult when you mix generations. Our next two guests will show us what I mean. Please give a great Rotary welcome to Chuck Arsenan and Giselle Holder. Welcome.
Hey Chuck, how are you? Did you get my message? One second, Chuck,
Yes, I did, Giselle, but I didn't understand it. It was all full of these letters, the codes or something, and I didn't quite catch what you were trying to say. Maybe to understand this, maybe you and I could go through some of these and understand what they are. Okay? What do you think? So,
No problem at all, no problem at all. Okay, so the first one I sent you was LOL. Do you remember what LOL is?
Yes. Living on Lipitor.
No. Chuck, it's laugh out loud, as they are doing right now.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh my
Well,
goodness.
let's see, the second one you said was IMHO, and I got that. I got that
I
right
know.
away. I said, is my hearing aid on?
It was, in my humble opinion, Chuck. Oh my goodness. Okay, this one was very easy.
Okay.
BTW.
Oh, bring the teeth. Well,
By the way, Chuck. By the way.
by the way, what?
Oh my God. By the way, this is really going badly.
Okay, well, the next one I know.
I know.
TTYL. Talk to you loudly.
No.
Right?
I know it's because of the hearing aid, but it's talk to you later.
Oh, so we're not talking now.
Okay, we had BYOT, right? I know you got this one.
Yeah. Rebecca said this just to me this morning. Bring your own teeth.
It's all about the technology, Chuck. It's bring your own tech.
Well, okay, so what's next?
And the last one, BFF. Someone said it this morning.
Oh, yeah. Best friend fell and couldn't get up.
That's pretty dark, though, Chuck. It's best friends forever.
Oh, I did hear that this morning. I thought somebody fell and I went to pick them up.
And DWI, sounds familiar at all?
Yes, I have that problem. It's driving while incontinent. No.
I don't know if the real meaning is worse, but it's driving while intoxicated.
Oh.
Yeah.
One leads to the other.
Yeah. And we have FYI. You must have seen that somewhere.
Oh, yes. I saw it on something I took last night before I went to bed. It's for your indigestion.
No, for your information, Chuck.
Oh,
Yeah.
you know, this is all very confusing to me.
I realize, and I know now why you couldn't respond to my text.
Yeah, and now I'm afraid you're going to tell me that LMAO is not, let's make an omelet.
Chuck, let's just not. It's time for us to go. Thanks, guys.
I'm going to speak Southern now, so we may need a translation for that. My name is Cookie. I am from District 7690 in the beautiful Piedmont of North Carolina. So it is my honor to introduce our next speaker, a leader and an enthusiastic person of vision. Our father introduced me to Danny in the hospital the day Danny was born, and I was extremely disappointed. Absolutely. I wanted a sister. I now had my fourth brother. But Danny has frequently reminded me, as he is the sixth and last child that my parents had, that it just indicates that Mom and Dad had finally produced the child they had hoped for all along. Dan and wife Judy are Tar Heel natives. Their children are spread all over the world. Melissa now lives in Hawaii. Aaron and his wife and the grandchildren in North Carolina. And Special Katie lives in Scotland, so we like to go visit her. Dan is employed, fortunately for us. He built his own company over the last 30 years as the president of Netcom Cabling based out of Greensboro, North Carolina. His business advises clients and installs security and computer systems in many companies, universities, healthcare systems, not only nationally, but internationally. Of course, now I claim the credit for recruiting him into Rotary. I was the one who put up the bond, surety bond, so that he could join Gate City Rotary. It took a lot of money, but they did let him in. Dan has served now in numerous capacities as club president of the Rotary Club of Gate City, and most recently, joining partners with Mike Conrad, he served now as the charter club president of the Rotary Club of downtown Greensboro. He is known for his ability to throw a great party and has often warned me, it's really not a good party till the police show up. So it has happened, really. So now, when I help him plan a party, he'll talk about that, I hire deputies ahead of time, just trying to stay out about, in front of him. As it turns out, Rotary has been a fantastic beneficiary of his big heart, his good humor, and his very generous nature. Beginning in 2003, Dan served on the board of the Children of Vietnam charity and continues his service as a volunteer for this nonprofit that has absolutely touched his heart. As a parent of a young girl adopted from Vietnam as a child, Dan has continued efforts to reach many more children in need within his daughter's original homeland of Vietnam. Dan is the founder of Pigstock, a Rotary barbecue bluegrass festival that has been a fundraiser generating proceeds to provide educational opportunities to young girls in Vietnam for the past 10 years. To quote Rotary International President Jennifer Jones, an educated girl is an empowered girl. And this is Dan's accomplishment. And he will now share his story with you. Please welcome baby brother to the stage.
Marcy was good enough to assign me my sister as my aide today. And this is what a text exchange sounds like when your sister is your aide. So Cookie, hey, I'm at the airport, can you give me a lift? Cookie, something wrong with your Uber account, I got a bigger fish on the line. So I'm like, okay, no worries, I'll get a ride. Cookie, bring me Starbucks. So Marcy, thank you, and Cookie, I may have licked your cup. I've been advised to keep this to 20 minutes and not the PDG metric 20 minutes that's really not 20 minutes, the real 20 minutes. Chris has a clock on me here. I've sworn a blood oath to keep to that and promise when it's over you will feel fantastic. You will feel fantastic because it's a really good story, or you'll feel fantastic because it's over. It's really a win-win. I'm going to read you this because when I don't read, I tend to wander off down rabbit holes. When I first met Tu Tai Hung a little over 20 years ago, she had just turned 5 years old and lived in a small village in Vietnam. It was about 10 kilometers from the border of China. It was the same village where my friend Porter Halliburton had been shot down in 1965. And Porter told me one time, he said, they were a lot nicer to me than they were at the Hilton in Hanoi. Tu was the middle child of 7 and was about to be adopted into an American family. You can imagine what a heart-wrenching decision this was for her family in Vietnam. When I met Tu's Vietnamese parents, I asked them, why Tu? And her father told me that she was the best and the brightest, and she was going to get this opportunity for an education. At the time, I felt like this was a good story to share with Tu, but I was skeptical that there was more to it than that. How could they know what her potential was? Tu's adoption went through. She became Katie Tu and joined her new family in North Carolina. Over the years, I was fortunate to be able to follow her path in the U.S., as well as maintain contact with her family in Vietnam. Katie Tu was a quick study once on the ground in North Carolina. She learned to speak English in a few weeks. Reading and writing came in a few months. Along the way, she shared with her new family what village life was like in Vietnam, sharing stories of catching grasshoppers and tying a string to their leg and digging a hole and competing with the other children to see whose grasshopper would get out of the hole first. I was interested in this game. I said, well, what did the winning grasshopper get? Katie said, we ate him. And I think pretty much all the contestants had the same fate in that game. Along with these fun stories, Katie too told us that her parents and her family in Vietnam, there were 8 of them, lived in a small home, about 400 square feet, and it leaked very badly when it rained. Katie's American parents had prepared mightily for her arrival, but there is no manual for what if she asks for a house. The family went back to their adoption agency for guidance, and small world that it is, they were told that there's a man in Winston-Salem that builds houses for poor families in Vietnam. Katie's folks were then introduced to Ben Wilson, the founder of Children of Vietnam. Ben had worked all over the world as an engineer, and his last project before his retirement was building a factory in Da Nang. During his time in Da Nang, Ben fell in love with the people, and especially the children. He and his assistant, Mrs. Hung, began to do a small project with street children. This was 1998, and the beginning of Children of Vietnam, which you'll hear me reference as COV. Mrs. Hung is still the country director, and Ben, now 90 years old, is still the very active president of COV. Going back to Katie's story, the housing request, going back to Katie's story about the housing request, Ben told Katie's mom that COV worked in central Vietnam and that he would have to investigate about whether they would be allowed to build up in her village. He got back to the family and said they were approved to do this, but it would cost a great deal more than building in Da Nang. This house would cost $3,500. So the family had a builder and a budget, and as young Miss Katie began the first grade, she was showing interest in a number of different things, one of which was modeling. Her first job modeling, very ironically, was for American Girl magazine. Katie's first paycheck for her first week at work was $3,500. So Katie built her family a new home with her first paycheck. As Katie grew up, she excelled at everything thrown at her. She was a stellar student, a musician, dancer, hunter, public speaker, tennis. There was nothing that she couldn't do except badminton. She was really bad at badminton. She started early college in the 9th grade and was awarded a full Gordon Scholarship at Wake Forest University. She graduated summa cum laude and followed that with a scholarship for a master's degree at Stirling University in Scotland, where she received the Psychology Postgraduate Prize for excellent performance. Katie loves and is loved by her Vietnam family, but they knew she needed a bigger palette to paint on. She truly was the best and the brightest and designated to be a citizen of the world. Chris, can we put the next slide? Do we have a slide? Oh, not that one. Keep going. That one. Okay. So there's Katie, young Katie, flying us out of Vietnam in 2002, and then with her parents on the right in Vietnam, and with Ben Wilson in the top right, the founder of Children of Vietnam, and at her new home on Ben Nevis Mountain, the highest peak in Scotland, chilling out. So that's been Katie's path. Big spoiler here, Katie is my daughter. It's just easier to brag on her in the third person. You can imagine the debt that I have to Vietnam for this special child. Watching her grow up gave me pause as to what about the potential with other girls in Vietnam. What could be done to provide opportunity for these young ladies? I had begun to volunteer, as Cookie said, for COV back in 2003 and came onto the Children of Vietnam Board of Directors in 2006. Serving on the board, I was in the perfect position to learn more about the various needs of the children and to begin to contemplate what could be done to help the children in need of nutrition, health care, clean water, and educations. I have returned to Vietnam about every other year for the last 20 years, visiting Katie's village in the north and spending time with the children supported by Children of Vietnam in central Vietnam. My last trip was 2020, right before the world turned off, and I finally have my next trip back on the books. The idea of Rotary collaborating in service came to me early on. In 2013, the Gate City Rotary Club of Greensboro wrote a $3,500 district grant for Children of Vietnam. $3,500 is the theme to everything. The grant was to provide 1 year of support for 25 disadvantaged girls in a village outside of Da Nang. These girls were considered at risk in our world or lack of means and education places them in harm's way and darkens their futures. Our Children of Vietnam staff identified candidates for this program and then met with the school staff, the parents, and the girls. We did this to have buy-in and sweat equity from all parties to keep them in school. We wanted bang for our buck and long-term measurable success. Keeping the girls in school is at times very difficult for the families because they're so needed at home. The district grant funded their uniforms, tutoring, extracurricular educational opportunities, bikes, desks, anything they needed to be successful students. Life skills tutoring was implemented as many had never left their small village. An occasional trip for the famous fried chicken became a big group favorite. The first cohort of 25 girls we called the Hoi Qui Girls for the village they came from. This is now morphed into a much broader program we call Study Steps. The Gates Foundation tells us that for each year a girl stays in school, her eventual income will rise by 10 to 20%. So we needed to find a way to stretch this $3,500 grant. We decided on a barbecue competition we call Big Stock. Clubs in our district compete for ribbons, trophies, and bragging rights, and our guests walk from tent to tent, eating and enjoying the beverages and bluegrass music. We recruit Rotary and community volunteers to help with setup, cleanup, judging, the food entries, donating supplies, wine, beer, water, everything is donated. Our clubs donate and cook various entrees, sides, and desserts to share all afternoon with the folks that have donated the price of an entry ticket to enjoy the music, food, drinks, and fellowship. Matching these funds with a district grant, we had enough to get the girls all the way through high school. The idea of educating and empowering women has been our primary focus from the get-go. Now, if we could get them all the way through high school, why stop there? Why not another pig stock? After the second year, we realized we could fund these girls all the way through college if we kept cooking. The last year at Pig Stock, we had 1,400 people attend. Our goal this year is to have 20 clubs competing and 2,000 guests. The revenue from Pig Stock has now exceeded $250,000 and continues to fund the program. So here's the hook. We have a sustainable, repeatable program with a consistent funding source. Our Study Steps program can be expanded 100-fold in Vietnam and repeated in any corner of the world if you have an external funding source and a boots-on-the-ground organization locally that you can trust. You may recognize some of the names of our volunteers who have helped us from the very first event and have continued to volunteer each year. Past District Governors Patrick Eakes, Mike Conrad, Phil Morris, Chris Justice, and of course my sister Cookie have supported this event with their time, talents, and treasure. If not for Cookie and Patrick Eakes, we would have never had a second Pig Stock. It was damp on the first one. It was really, really damp. Their ask to other clubs to join in were essential to our success. Cookie and Patrick pushed our event from 90 people the first year to 1,400 9 years later. Thank you. Cookie and Patrick believed in our goal, and they are there all day, really all year, helping to make this event a success. The participating Rotary clubs increase each year, as do the local businesses, who wish to use the Cook Team experience as a camaraderie, team-building experience for their staffs and entertainment for their customers. That's Pig Stock. That's kind of early on in the day. It gets crowded after a bit. So going back to our girls. When I first met the Hoi Qui girls 11 years ago, they were in the 6th grade. I asked them what they wanted to be when they grew up. Not a peep. Not one girl had any idea she could be anything. By the time they were in high school, they could not wait to tell me. They wanted to be teachers. They wanted to be engineers, artists, and sadly, one of them wanted to be a lawyer. Their success has been so tied to the dedication of Children of Vietnam staff, and it was so much more than financial. The staff did regular, age-appropriate life skills training with the girls, visited them in their homes, and literally wrapped their arms around them. But it would not have happened without a Rotary spark. I promise you, not one of these girls would have ever seen or considered college if not for Rotary's initiative. So why young ladies in Vietnam? The boys are still the priority in the family hierarchy, and we see the girls begin to drop out of school around the 6th grade. They're needed at home to take care of siblings and help with the family garden while parents seek day labor. The real problem arises a few years later when they're 16 to 18 years old and do not have an education. This is when trafficking comes into play. Therefore, our program begins in the 6th grade to build these girls' self-esteem, confidence, and life skills. The program is now expanded beyond Rotary. We have started our second group of 25 girls, and the older girls have begun to mentor the younger. I had told the first group 11 years ago that I expected them to pay it forward, and they are. In addition, the program has been copied and funded by non-Rotary groups, businesses, and individuals, so we have 75 more children enrolled in addition to our 50 girls. Remember, this all started with a $3,500 grant, and now we have 125 young ladies on the way to college. So we could see this, we could predict the success, we had everything in place to make it work, but what we did not see was the benefit that it would do to our clubs. Pigstock has become the largest Rotary event in District 7690. Clubs use it to attract new members as well as engage seasoned members. I know of one longtime wonderful Rotarian that had never taken a leadership role in his club. He took on the job of his club's cook team captain, and 3 years later, he was his club's president. It is hard to explain the lengths a Rotarian will go to win a ribbon. Businesses are now calling to donate. Local media also wishes to be involved. National media has reached out. No one leaves this event without asking if they can be a part of it next year. This is the face of Rotary in our district. We had hoped to have one of our students come to the U.S. to visit clubs and say thank you this fall. Tal was so excited about the opportunity to come to America, she's never been more than 30 miles from her village. Sadly, the U.S. consulate would not approve her visa, so we had to settle on a video thank you from Tal. I was advised that Rotarians needed videos to be under 2 minutes. I argued mightily that you guys could handle the full 7 minutes to no avail. So my good friend and past District Governor Chris hacked poor Tal 7 minutes down to this. If you want the whole thing, you can send me an email and I'll send you the whole story. Anyway, I'm happy to send you the link. If we could share Tal's little video now, that would be awesome.
Hello everyone, my name is Thảo. I'm based in Da Nang City. I'm the final year of Da Nang University of Economics. It can be said that I am one of the longest beneficiaries of Children of Vietnam scholarships. More than 10 years, coming to Children of Vietnam is the best opportunity I have ever had. You know, like many other families, my family also has a happy and peaceful life. But suddenly, my father was seriously ill and died early. At that time, I was only in 4th grade, and my mother had to take care of us in order that we could continue to go to school. It was a really difficult time for my family, and I didn't know how to maintain my studies. But God didn't take everything from anyone. Fortunately, when I was in high school, I was able to participate in the Studio Steps scholarship programs sponsored by the Children of Vietnam organization for 25 Hmong female students who have disadvantage. My wonderful journey with Children of Vietnam organization begins here. Thanks to the help from sponsors, especially the Rotary Club and Children of Vietnam organization, my life has turned a new page. I have achieved high achievements such as being an excellent student for 10 consecutive years and winning high praise in the field of math, physics, and chemistry. Finally, I want to say thank you very much. Thanks to my sponsors and the Children of Vietnam organization, I also would like to say thank you on the Rotary clubs and on the people involved with Rotary fundraise, Pigstock, who worked on to support us during the past years. I hope to see my sponsor soon. Goodbye and see you again.
These girls have known from the beginning the opportunity that has been provided. Over and over and over, I have been asked, please tell the Rotary we will do our best. We don't want to let them down. You cannot know how proud I am of these young ladies and how hard they have worked. They are our Rotary legacy. We've been pushing for Rotary clubs in Vietnam for as long as I've been a Rotarian. Last fall, the first club chartered in Ho Chi Minh City. A few months ago, I became an honorary member of the third club in the country, the Rotary Club of Da Nang. President Shaker visited the club back in May to install their officers. The club's goal for membership this year is to build to 100. 2 Children of Vietnam staff members are charter members of the club. It is my hope that as our university girls begin to graduate this spring, they will be paying it forward as Rotarians. I believe my contact information is in all this somewhere. If you have an interest in visiting Vietnam, attending Pigstock, finding out more about Children of Vietnam, or if I can help your district setting up a multi-club event to empower girls, I'm happy to do it. Just ring me or shoot me an email. Please join us this fall, November 5th, for Pigstock, Greensboro, North Carolina. I've got a set of silver pig wings here somewhere for the Rotarian that travels the farthest. I have a set of gold wings if you're our president and want to come judge. The very last thing I will leave you with, when we educate a young lady, we are not just changing her life. We are changing her daughter's life, and we are changing her granddaughter's life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. What a fabulous program. Good morning, everyone. I'm John Tabor. I'm the district governor-elect for District 6970 in Northeast Florida. Dan, I have confidence now that everyone in this room has benefited from your study steps, a great demonstration of what a club with a can-do attitude can accomplish. I'm also sure now that we all know about Pigstock, you may sell a few more tickets. So that's fantastic. We've started this session today with a video from the One Children's Choir. And if you followed the words, many underscored that these young individuals confidently were talking about being the captain of their own ship. Rotarians, our job is to initiate and support the types of programs that we've heard about this morning. From Zebu's initiative in the SWAT Valley, focused on education and nutrition, to Tonya's call for being mentors and coaching. Also, Dan's grassroots movement that has had such an impact on young girls and would not have any other opportunity without that. This is why we are people of action. So we are going to, at this point, take a short, very short stretch, comfort break. We're going to come back very quickly at 10:30. Our next session, a great session on partnerships, is kicked off with remarks by Rotary General Secretary John Hugo. You do not want to miss it. Thank you very much.